All right, so for this video, I'm going to talk about how, people lack nuance nowadays. It seems to be that more and more people are, falling for, black and white, ways of thinking, and people don't have the ability to have a nuanced sort of take on things anymore. People are either, it's just one side or the other. And like the main thing that I want to talk about in this video, in relation to this is I've realized that there are two types, or there's two sort of main subtypes of NPC in this reality, it seems, which is, and the first type seems to be like, this is the one that most people are familiar with, which is the conformist NPC who agrees with the crowd, they agree with the herd, they support the current thing, no matter what. But then you have then you have like the second type, of NPC, which is the contrarian NPC. And this is a person that I've noticed recently. I've only noticed this recently, but this is someone that is, I think is just sort of baked into this reality, which is the contrarian NPC disagrees with the crowd no matter what. That whatever the crowd thinks, they believe the opposite as a reaction to the crowd. That it's not that they believe things because they have like an actual set of principles. It's not that they believe things because they actually did critical thinking. They listened to their gut instincts. They listened to their intuition. They did the critical thinking. They did their own research, and they came up with their own, conclusion, like a real independent thinker does. What these people do is that they believe the opposite of whatever's popular, no matter what it is. And so, if 2 + 2 = 4 is a popular opinion, these are the people that say 2 + 2 = 5. And if you say that 2 + 2 = 4 because logic, then these people will say, "Oh, but that's the popular opinion. You're falling for you're a sheeple. You're not like me. I'm an independent thinker because I believe the opposite of that." Right? And this type of person is kind of exhausting because they pretend like they have principles. They pretend like that like they're principled people, when in reality they react to what the crowd does in the same way that the conformist does. The conformist and the contrarian are sort of two sides of the same coin, that I've realized, which is like they both react to what the crowd does, and they both base their worldview on what the majority of people believe. Whether you're believing the opposite of the majority or whether you're believing what the majority believes, none of it is based on an actual set of independent thinking. None of it is based on thinking out things for yourself and actually coming to your own conclusions. And the thing about if we go back to the subject of nuance, right? A lot of times, if you actually think and come up with your own conclusions, so sort of like almost like in a vacuum, without regarding what people think, without regarding what the current thing is, usually you'll arrive somewhere in the middle when it comes to this stuff. And that's one of the things about this reality, is that it wants you to think in black and white, and it doesn't want you to have nuance. It doesn't want you to have and this is another thing that a lot of people nowadays lack, is they don't have the ability to actually analyze information and to be able to sort of take the red pills and to sort of leave out the rest. That is a huge skill, where it's like, I think that there's a lot of things in this reality that are partially true. There's partial truths, and then it's mixed with a lot of junk. Whether the junk is intentionally placed there, or whether the junk is something that has sort of accumulated over time. I think that there are a lot of things that are sort of 50% true, 50% lie, in this reality. And so the ability to parse information and to be able to sort of take the red pills and leave out the rest, that is a skill that not a lot of people have anymore. Not a lot of people have that ability to sort of just take the information and leave out the rest. Instead it's like they either 100% agree or they 100% disagree without actually analyzing the information and thinking about it for themselves. And instead they're just doing it as sort of like a reaction, to what the crowd thinks, or they're doing it as a reaction, sort of like it's like an artifact of their black and white thinking. And this is something that I've noticed is more. This is the most prevalent in the world of politics. If you look at sort of like the Masonic puppet show of politics, it makes me think of like the Masonic checkerboard. It's like, if you're stuck in black and white thinking, you're playing their game. You're a pawn in their chessboard game. If you have that black and white thinking, you're stuck in the game. But if you have that ability to have a nuanced way of thinking, if you're not falling for the false dichotomies of right wing versus left wing, black versus white, red versus blue, then it's almost like you're withdrawing from the game. You're not playing their game anymore. And if you think about like right wing versus left wing, one of the things that this reality will do is it'll present sort of two options. It's not that it presents the conformist option, it presents two options. It presents, number one, the sort of conformist blue pill option, which is basically that's what most people sort of go into, is they sort of conform to the blue pill. But if you start questioning the blue pill, what will happen is that the system will offer sort of like a fake red pill as like controlled opposition, or like a honeypot for people to go into, and that's exactly what happens in this reality. And so the blue pill option would be the sort of Democratic Party, and the Republican Party would be like the fake red pill, which is like, and usually what happens is that, people get stuck in that false dichotomy, and that they either stay on one side their entire lives, or they're stuck sort of flip-flopping sort of back and forth between the two. And this is sort of like a genius way of, getting people to never arrive at a full, people never arrive at 100% truth, because they're too busy sort of picking between two half truths. And so I think that, this ability to have a nuanced way of thinking, this ability to have nuance, and to be able to, sort of take the red pills, leave out the rest, and not have this sort of black and white thinking, is really important, because that is one of the ways that the Matrix tricks you. And if you look into the ways that, the psyop, not the psyop, but if you look into the ways that, psyops work, the way that psyops operate is they usually include truth in order to make it more believable. And so if you have that black or white thinking, then usually you're going to believe like a partial lie, no matter what side you choose. If you have that sort of binary 1 or 0, kind of thinking, right? And I think that that sort of contrarian sort of NPC archetype is really annoying, because I think that there's a lot of people that if you're not a part of like one side or the other, what'll happen is that people will sort of shame you, and they'll try to say that like you don't have principles or something. They'll try to say, oh, you're one of those people. You just pick a side. No, I'm thinking out things for myself, and I'm developing my own view about what reality is, and I'm not going to pick a side. I'm not going to play the Masonic checkerboard chess game, okay, of black and white. I'm going to come up with my own view of things, instead of reacting to what the crowd does, because that's the real lack of principle. And it's really ironic, because these people will say that, oh, you don't have any principles because you won't pick a side. But they don't have principles because they don't have the ability to independently think for themselves, because if they did, they wouldn't be stuck choosing teams like some tribalistic, sports ball game, because that's exactly what politics is. It's very similar to sports ball. It's very similar to, almost like a WWE, like wrestling. It's very similar in that, like, you have to choose a team. It's not about the truth. It's not about arriving to a truth. It's about choosing a team. And if you don't choose a team, then both sides get mad at you. And they try, what they do is they sort of try to cattle prod you into choosing a side. I think that's why both sides attack, is both sides attack so that they can sort of cattle prod you into going to one side or the other as sort of like a reaction to what they're doing, right? But I think that sort of contrarian NPC is something that I've really noticed, is that you have people who, they believe the opposite of whatever the crowd does, not as a matter of, it's not that they have those beliefs because they have a set of principles. It's not that they have those beliefs because that they arrived to those conclusions with critical thinking, with with actual research. Like what they did, they essentially reacted to what the crowd or the herd was doing, and they decided to do the opposite. That's just one of the things that I've noticed about this reality, is that it seems to be that there are two types of NPC. There's the conformist, and then there's the contrarian. Okay, so I think it's really, and I understand the sentiment. I understand the sentiment. I understand this whole thing of, usually if something's really popular, there's usually something off about it. If something is shoved in your face by the system, there's usually it's either a distraction or it's a lie. Which I definitely get that, but I think that can't be your way of finding the truth. Is just being just reacting to the current thing, reacting to what the crowd believes. That can't be your way of arriving to the truth. That's not a way of seeing what the truth is. All you're doing is you're reacting to what the herd is doing, and that's no more independent than being a conformist, right? And yet again, the conformist and the contrarian, they're both reacting to what the crowd is doing. They're not thinking about what's true. They're thinking about, okay, what does the crowd think, and how do I react to it. That's not principled at all, right? And I think that, if you're someone who is, an independent thinker, then you're going to have that ability to have nuance. You're going to have that ability to not fall for the false dichotomies that this realm tries to throw at you. So that's just something that I've been thinking about. Now I've had that kind of thinking before, that the sort of contrarian thinking where you sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater. I've had that before. And that is something that I'm trying to, remove from my way of thinking, because I think that there is a lot of nuance to the way that things work in this reality, and being able to sort of dissect and parse information, to be able to take the red pills and, leave out the rest without throwing out, without, either 100% believing or 100% disbelieving, pieces of information. Being able to take the red pills and leave out the rest, being able to have nuance, and being able to develop that ability to critically think, come up with your own conclusions without reacting to the current thing, without reacting to what the crowd is doing. Whether you're a conformist or a contrarian, you're still reacting to the crowd. And I think that that is something that, has to, and that you have to move away from that if you actually want to arrive at the truth, instead of just choosing between, two half truths, instead of choosing one thing or the other, because usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. And that ability to have nuance will get you closer to the truth, instead of just, falling for the, the false dichotomies in this reality, right? But yeah, that's the video.